This is the first time that we're going to have any conference championship game as a 1-2 since all the way back in 2009. In a lot of ways, these teams are mirror images of each other. Kirby gets another crack at Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. It's turned into an Alabama problem for Georgia. Can they fix that? It's like the old Big 12 North where Colorado, quarterbacked by yours truly, got to play for the Big 12 championship game. We got beat 70-3 by Vincent Young. They went on to win the national championship.
A day like today is why we love college football.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Joel Klatt Show. I'm Joel Klatt. This show is brought to you by Graduate by Hilton. We thank them for their support. As always, we've got championship game picks and previews ready for you today. But before we get into that, remember, as always, get down and subscribe in the YouTube channel. We would very much appreciate that. Rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts, and then go follow us on social media, wherever you like the social media. That is at Joel Klatt Show, and you can get our content in shorter forms wherever you like to scroll around. Now, I would encourage you also to go back and listen to the first two episodes this week. We released an episode on Monday and on Wednesday. On Monday, I gave a more in-depth form of a playoff format that I would endorse, a 14-team playoff that includes play-in weekend, so it would reshape what we're about to see in conference championship game weekend and make it more of a play-in weekend, the CFP. So go check that out on the YouTube page. That was on Monday. And then my full reaction to the college football playoff rankings that came out on Tuesday night. That's up on Wednesday. So go check those episodes out for all of that full reaction, including some coaching carousel news. But today it's championship game picks and previews. And I got to tell you, we have got an absolute gem on fire here. Big Ten championship game live from Indianapolis. Gus, Jenny, and I are going to have the call. 1 versus 2 as Kurt Cignetti takes Indiana to face Ohio State in Indianapolis in the Big Ten championship. And I got to say, when he first got the job and he was talking all of that brash type of rhetoric about, hey, Purdue sucks and so does Ohio State and Michigan, and then here he is just 2 years later, and here's Indiana on an undefeated year, number 2 in the country. This is the first time that we're going to have any conference championship game as a 1-2 since all the way back in 2009 when Florida and Alabama faced each other in the SEC championship game. Now, tons on the line, obviously. Obviously, the Big Ten champion, also the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, and also the most prestigious individual award in all of sports, the Heisman Trophy. As Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback for Indiana, and obviously Julian Sayin, the quarterback at Ohio State, battle in this one. They are the 2 Heisman favorites. They're playing in this game. I think that the winner of this game likely is the better quarterback in the game. Thus, the winner in the game plays better, wins the Heisman Trophy. Tons on the line with these quarterbacks, with these teams. Let's get into the matchup here. So those of you that are going to enjoy this matchup, and it's going to be all of us in college football, you have to understand, first and foremost, these 2 teams, led by their quarterbacks, Mendoza and Sayin, are the 2 most complete teams that we have in college football right now. I understand. Listen, Oregon would beg to differ. Texas Tech would beg to differ. But to this point, you cannot argue with the fact that both of these teams are balanced. They are great on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively, and they're balanced within their offense. They can run it when they need to. They can throw it when they need to. So complete teams, great coaching staffs. They're fundamentally sound. When I'm watching film, these have been the 2 best teams in college football. And now we get to see a game in Indianapolis with these 2 teams. Dynamic offenses, top 2 scoring defenses in the country, 1 and 2 in the country. Let's start with when Indiana has the ball. Fascinating matchup because obviously we know Ohio State's defense has been the singular best unit in all of college football. Well, Indiana ain't too shabby on offense, folks. Not too shabby on offense. Led by Mendoza, certainly, but that's not how they start. Their foundation of how they play offense actually starts with the run game, and they've been excellent running the football. One of the best rushing teams in the country. They also play a methodical style. They control the clock, similar to Ohio State. In a lot of ways, these teams are mirror images of each other, not in their schematics, but in terms of their philosophies, their complete nature. And that run game for Indiana is really the catalyst to their entire offensive game plan. In fact, when you look at the games in which they've struggled offensively, and maybe they didn't struggle against Oregon, but they didn't run it great against Oregon. They certainly struggled running the football at Iowa. They had to come back late in that game and get the victory. They struggled running the football at Penn State. They had to come back late and get a victory on that incredible catch by Omar Cooper from Fernando Mendoza late in that game, a game that Gus Ginny and I called. But all of it starts with the run game. And here's the reason why it starts with the run game is because their passing game is predicated on the run-pass option. Now, that's a quick caveat to tell you we also have a video on the YouTube page teaching you about the run-pass option, the RPO. You've heard a lot of announcers talk about it. It gets thrown out there. Well, we have an entire tutorial about the RPO that you should go watch. In particular, if you're going to enjoy this game on Saturday night, this Big Ten championship game, go to the YouTube page. There's a series called Understanding Football. There's a lot there. There's 4 videos there, different things in football, but one of them is on the RPO. That's the latest video that we produced, and it'll help you understand what's going to take place when Ohio State's defense is on the field and Indiana's offense is on the field. Now, Mendoza is clearly a fantastic player, and even in those games that they didn't have a run game, he was able to be spectacular late throwing the football. Against Iowa, has that big completion to Elijah Surratt, and he takes it in for a touchdown. They win the game on the road. He takes his team right down the field late against Penn State, gets the touchdown to Omar Cooper. That's obviously putting the team on his shoulders, moving them down the field and getting wins. That's what I love about this guy. He's a competitor. He's smart. He loves football. He's a terrific player, and he's been at his best when his best has been needed, namely Oregon, Iowa, and Penn State. We'll see if that's still the case against Ohio State. Elijah Surratt out on the outside, one of the best wide receivers in the country. Now, they go against a defense that has largely been the best unit in all of college football. This defense for Ohio State is outstanding. It starts with the fact that all defenses are built front to back and inside out. They happen to have 4 first-round draft picks right down the middle of their defense. Caden McDonald up front, their nose tackle, both linebackers, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. By the way, Arvell Reese might be the top pick in the NFL draft. And then they have the Swiss Army knife, most versatile, smartest player in college football, Caleb Downs, as a safety. So right down the middle, they are elite. It allows them to adjust, run different schematics. They do an incredible job of being sticky in coverage, whether they're running man coverage or zone coverage. They stick to wide receivers. There's very few wide open wide receivers on the field. And that stickiness is exactly what you need against the RPO. And you would know if you go to Understanding Football, you know everything that I'm talking about here. It gives you a great baseline of information for how to watch this matchup. So Ohio State's defense, I think, is actually uniquely suited to go up against this Indiana team. And that matchup is going to be phenomenal. Can Indiana establish the run? Will Ohio State force them into a drop-back passing game, which is what they don't want to do? Can they establish the run and then get to the RPO and the play action? Is Elijah Surratt going to be a mismatch on the outside? These are all questions I can't wait to be answered. Matt Patricia, the coordinator for that defense, he'll have some sort of plan ready. Now, on the opposite side, when Ohio State has the ball, this is an offense that has grown into an offense that can do whatever they want. I told you that Indiana has a foundational piece where they have to run the football in order to get to everything else, and when they have not been able to run the football, they have struggled. Well, here's the difference. When you look at Ohio State's offense, they have literally just chosen what they want to do that day, and then they can be elite at it. That's dangerous. That's scary for an opponent. Whether it's running the football late in the season, throwing the football when they needed to, taking shots down the field, being ball control, slowing things down, they've done it all. They've been strong in every area at times during the course of the season and have not shown many weaknesses. I think that the biggest weakness they have on offense is the right side of their offensive line. They have rotated at right guard. And at times, like for instance, against Wisconsin, they weren't great. There were a lot of, I would just say, missed blocks, whiffs up at the line of scrimmage. So can Indiana, which is a movement-oriented zone defense, in particular with the front 7, they like to move a lot. The defensive line slanting, stunting, blitzing with zone behind it and coverage. Well, can they get home? Can they produce some pressure on Julian Sayin when Ohio State wants to throw the football? Because if you don't, Sayin is electric. and he's so efficient. Michigan could not get to him last week. They couldn't get any pressure on Julian Saint, and he ate them up, even in inclement weather. Now you're going to have a dome. You've got those two wide receivers on the outside, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, who looked fine and healthy, including that fourth down touchdown catch to Jeremiah Smith. Like, it's very difficult to defend this team. It starts with controlling the line of scrimmage. It starts with forcing Julian Saint to be just a drop back passer. And then you've got to produce some pressure in his face, make him uncomfortable in the pocket. Very few teams have been able to do that. And none have been able to do it for any sustained amount of time. And certainly Michigan struggled with that mightily last week when Ohio State went to the Big House and won that game over their rival. They've run it, like I said, very well in the back half of the year. 199 yards per game over their last 5. Smith and Tate back. Sayin, incredible. Most efficient quarterback in the country. So it comes down to their offensive line, handling the movement up front, and then a matchup that I can't wait to watch. D'Angelo Pons, a great corner for Indiana, and high school teammate of Jeremiah Smith. They'll be matched up against one another. I can't wait to see how that plays out. Now, Pons is largely left alone in coverage, and Indiana rolls away from Pons. They do a lot of creative things to get numbers away and create mismatches elsewhere on the field. Can they do that against Jeremiah Smith? Pons has given up a lot of size to Smith, and yet he did a nice job against them the last time that they matched up last year in the shoe in a big Ohio State win. So that Pons-Jeremiah Smith matchup is fascinating. Can't wait for that game. 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Coverage begins at 6:30. What's up, Klatt Show fans? If you're looking for something fun to do or a great holiday gift idea for your friends and family, look no further than SeatGeek. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. I personally love using SeatGeek for tickets to games with my boys because I know that SeatGeek has my back. Each ticket has a rating, a scale of 1 to 10. So you know if you're getting a good deal. Green dots mean great deal. Red dots maybe keep looking. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you. Guys, here's what you do. You use code CLAT10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code CLAT10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app, and you can have that code automatically added to your account so you can use it later on in that app, SeatGeek. And thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's show. All right, let's get to these other conference championship games. The SEC championship game, number 3, Georgia, number 9, Alabama. Kirby gets another crack at Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. Kirby, I still can't, he's 1-7. And we talk about these records, like James Franklin got killed for his record against top 10 opponents, right? Ryan Day has gotten killed for his record against Michigan. Nobody mentions Kirby is 1-7 against Alabama. Maybe it's just not talked about enough because of the 2 national championships, but he's also 0-2 against Kalen DeBoer. We thought Kirby might have just had a mentor problem. Can't beat Nick Saban, but it's turned into an Alabama problem for Georgia. Can they fix that? Listen, they are the better team in this game, all right? I do have a question of what version we're going to get of each of these teams because they've been up and down at times. We've seen Georgia play really well, like the game in particular in the second half against Texas. We've also seen them sleepwalk, like that entire game against Georgia Tech where they were really anemic on offense. So which Georgia do we get? Do we get the Georgia from the previous 2 Bama matchups that didn't show up in the first half and then played great in the second half? I'm interested about that dynamic. If you get a full, I don't want to say effort, but if you get the full attention of Georgia, I do think they're the better team than Alabama. Bama has jumped out early in the last 2 meetings. Georgia has come back. Even earlier this year, the one loss that Georgia did have, remember they had that botched 4th down play. Credit to Alabama for stopping that. They also dropped a wide open pass right down the seam that would have basically given them the win. I think that Georgia wins this game. Now, what do we get from the Georgia pass rush? That's a question. It's been underwhelming for big sections of the season. And then when they needed it most against Arch Manning in Texas, what happens? Boom. They showed up. And they were dominant in that game rushing the passer. Alabama is so one-dimensional on offense that scares me against a Kirby Smart Georgia team. Jam Miller left that Auburn game. He's been the one slightly bright spot of their run game. He was in a boot. I don't know about his availability. Even if he's not effective and available, they are a one-dimensional team throwing the ball. And the problem is that there have been moments when even the passing game has really struggled. Check this out. We've seen Alabama's passing game in the second halves of games in the last 5 in these SEC matchups really fall off. Ty Simpson is not the world beater that he was in the first half. Like the Georgia game the first time was an example of that. He has been held, speaking of Simpson, under 100 passing yards in the second half of their last 5 SEC games. Well, that's a problem, in particular when Georgia is such a great second half team. It calls into question, like, how big of a lead can Bama get in the first half? They got a big enough lead in the first matchup. Can they do that again here in this SEC championship game? I'm also very confused about just like the Ryan Williams saga. You know, there hasn't been a ton talked about in terms of the Ryan Williams saga, but he was easily the second best wide receiver in the sport last year to Jeremiah Smith. He was dynamic. And then this year, he's just like gone away. Did not have a target last week against Auburn. That was interesting. Josh Cuevas, he's going to miss his 3rd straight game. I trust Georgia in a big game. Georgia is favored by only 2.5. I believe that's because of the 1-7 record that Kirby has against Alabama, and yet this is the better team. Bama is one-dimensional. I think that Georgia wins this game 27-17, and they win the SEC championship. Big 12 championship game. This one's going to be, I think, a good game. I hope a good game. But BYU coming in to face Texas Tech for the second time this year. Texas Tech dominated this game in the previous meeting. It's why they are 12.5-point favorites. That's a scary number, I understand. But Tech took it to BYU a month ago, 29-7, and it could have been worse. They settled for a bunch of field goals. BYU has to run the ball. They have to lean on LJ Martin. He has 75 carries over the last 3 games. I don't think that they're going to be able to just throw the football. And here's the problem. Tech has the best rush defense in college football. They're the number 1 run defense in the country. So this is a terrible matchup for BYU. As much as I like BYU and their toughness and everything that they're about, I love Kalani Sitake. They retain their coach, crumble cookies for everybody. And yet this is a bad matchup because Tech is so good. You know, again, they're one of the more complete teams in the country. They're on a different level this season, and it starts in that defensive front 7. It just shows you the level of investment that they made on that side of the ball, and it's paying off huge for them. They invested in the defensive line. That defensive line has dominated the season. Jacob Rodriguez has been fantastic at linebacker. It's a really good defense led by their defensive coordinator, Sheil Wood. He came from Houston, has changed them dramatically in one season. I think he should be up for and maybe, if not, win the Broyles Award. Tech has just been steamrolling teams this year. All 11 of their wins have been by 20 or more points. They're 10-0 with Baron Morton, their starting quarterback. Their 1 loss at Arizona State. Baron Morton did not play in that game. He's an experienced guy. They've been building to this moment. They've invested for this moment. This is Baron Morton's 35th start. I love the balance that you get from Tech, their ability to throw the ball and run the ball. Meanwhile, if BYU can't run it with LJ Martin, they're going to struggle. They just will. And they're going up against the number 1 rush defense in America and a motivated team that has not won the Big 12 championship ever. They've invested to do so, put themselves in a position to possibly get a bye in the college football playoff. Tech covers, they win, and they win it big, 31-10. I just have a hard time thinking to myself that BYU is going to score a lot of points in this game. So I'm going to give the 12.5, and I've got Tech 31-10 over BYU. ACC championship game, Virginia and Duke, because, of course, why not? You know, like 7-5. There we go. It's like the old Big 12 North where Colorado, quarterbacked by yours truly, got to play for the Big 12 championship game. Had no business being in that game. We got beat 70-3 by Vincent Young. He was good. They went on to win the national championship. Duke could really throw a wrench in all this playoff conversation. If they win this game, the ACC is going to be sweating whether Miami is able to back in because they would not get an automatic spot. Duke wins. Almost certainly 2 group of 5, group of 6 teams are going to be ranked higher than Duke. So we'll see. You know, Miami might be able to back in. But Virginia beat Duke 2 weeks ago, 34-7. That game, or 17. That game was at Duke. On offense, Duke leans on the passing game and Darian Mensah. You throw it around a lot. And Virginia's defense is the second best defense in the ACC. Again, bad matchup for the Blue Devils. This defense for Virginia is very good on third down. They get off the field. They're second best in the country getting off the field on third down, 27% conversion rate for opponents. Virginia was winning a bunch of close games early, but then they learned how to win those games, and then they've stretched it out and played much better in the back half of the year. I know that they lost to Wake Forest, but remember, Their quarterback, Chandler Morris, was knocked out of that game. And so with their starting quarterback, they've been outstanding. Meanwhile, Duke's defense, not very good. One of the worst in the ACC. They're allowing nearly 30 points per game. I don't love this matchup for their offense. Their pass defense is the bottom 10 in the country. Virginia's got some balance to their offense. Virginia's just the better team. And I think that they're going to win this football game. And, in that case, they will go to the playoff, and more power to them. I think Virginia covers the 3.5. Didn't understand that line at all, by the way. I think 38-17 is easily a score that I could see happening with this Virginia team. They'll be motivated. They cover the 3.5, and Virginia goes to the college football playoff. Last one, this is in the group of 6. The American Championship. Tulane hosts North Texas. North Texas favored by 2.5. I really like this North Texas team. Both of these coaches are going to be coaching elsewhere next year. Obviously, you've got Eric Morris from North Texas. He's headed to Oklahoma State. You've got John Summerall. He's headed to Florida. They're going to be coaching this game, though, and more power to them. I love that. Now, North Texas, here's what you need to know. Offensive juggernaut. Number 1 in the offense in the country in both scoring and total offense. They've scored 50 in 5 of their last 6. This Eric Morris, their head coach, he comes from that tree where he was a coordinator of Mahomes' team at Texas Tech. He discovered Cam Ward while he was at Incarnate Word, brought him to Washington State. So, this guy understands offense, and that's playing out on the field. Their quarterback, Drew Mestemaker, has been great. He's leading the country in passing at 320 yards per game. This North Texas team is a very good team. They can run it with Caleb Hawkins, 110 per game. On the other side, Jack Retzloff, he comes from BYU. Remember that whole exit of the offseason? The BYU former quarterback, now at Tulane, and they've had a good year. There's no doubt. Tulane is led by Retzloff. They've had a great year. He's a threat running the football and throwing the football, but North Texas, they just seem different on offense. They are favored by 2.5, and I think that this team gets it done on the offensive side. Eric Morris and North Texas get the win, and North Texas goes to the college football playoff. So if you're keeping track at home, you've got A&M in the playoff, you've got Tech in the playoff, you've got North Texas in the playoff, and you've got OU in the playoff. How you feeling, Longhorns? That's a tough one for you, Texas, isn't it? That is a tough one. North Texas wins it 30-27. They cover the 2.5. Let's just recap the picks here briefly. We've got all favorites, and I know that makes me a little bit nervous, but I'm giving all the points this week in the conference championship games. Remember, the motivation here is there. Georgia, I think, is going to win this game. They're only favored by 2.5. You got to give that 2.5. Bama's just too one-dimensional. Tech is going to cover. They're just such a complete team, and they're good right where BYU needs to be great. I don't think BYU is going to be able to run the football. Give the 12.5 there. Virginia wins. Duke is not as good as Virginia. Virginia has gotten better in the back half of the year. I like Chandler Morris a lot. Give the 3.5 there, and Virginia goes to the playoff. And then North Texas, they get a playoff berth as a group of 6 member there. I would give the 2.5. Even in a road game at Tulane, that offense is just too good. Again, 50 points in 5 of their last 6 under Eric Morris. So there's that. Last thing here, there is some coaching news. Brian Hartline going to South Florida. So the OC of the Ohio State Buckeyes going down to South Florida to take that head coaching spot. They did end up losing one of those recruits, one of the 4-star wide receiver recruits from modern day, Dixon, I believe. He ended up decommitting and signing with or committing to USC. So already impacting that wide receiver room. Interesting there. I think some would say, well, why would he do that and not take one of these bigger jobs? But I would just pose this question. Will Stein, the coordinator at Oregon, goes home. He kind of grew up in the Kentucky area. He goes to Kentucky. And that's obviously in the SEC. Brian Hartline is going to go down to South Florida, where he's had a good run recruiting Florida talent, namely Jeremiah Smith. Is it easier to win at Kentucky or South Florida? Probably South Florida. And if you win at South Florida and you can get yourself to a playoff, now you can name your job at the Blue Bloods of college football. Whereas Will Stein is going to have to move mountains to get Kentucky to a place where they're just competitive in the SEC in order to get that look to maybe move up and get to a place where he would want to go. So it's just 2 different trains of thought there. I wish them both all the success in the world. Both of them will coach in the playoffs. So So Heartline will stay with Ohio State for this week's Big Ten championship game and then through the playoff on this playoff run, but headed to South Florida. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Remember to go subscribe on the YouTube channel. Leave a comment down below. Who are you picking in this week's conference championship games? Make sure to follow us on social media at Joel Klatt Show. Enjoy the games this weekend. I think that they're going to be great, including that Big Ten game. 8 Eastern, Gus, Ginny, and I will have the call as the number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes and the number 2 Indiana Hoosiers tangle in the Big Ten championship game. We will see you Monday when we break down and react to the college football playoff. What do they give us? Notre Dame in? Miami in? What are they going to give us? We'll be back Monday.